Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As you can tell, I am enjoying this wonderful book from today's guest, Awake, the Legacy of Akara. And before we get into the book and we get into the conversation with the lovely and wonderful Dayna Dunbar, I want to first welcome you to Third Eye Salon. If you've never been here before, if this is your first time, we are so excited that you're here. We love having you here. And I want to let you know that in each and every show, we take a deep and fresh look between the veils of reality. And today is no different. And before we learn about how Dayna came to be guided to write to this amazing, brilliant sci-fi book based on her own experiences, let's first say hello to the lovely Linda Coulter Burge, our hostess with the mostest, psychic, conscious business coach. How are you, Linda?
I'm doing wonderfully this morning. I'm so excited, as always, to be here with all of the wonderful people who join us online. And I will again be your live stream chat host. And again, we play nice or we get out. That's my rule, guys. So have deep, wonderful conversations as always together. And with that, join us also on our podcasts on Apple and Spotify. So you can see us and listen to us in a lot of different ways. Thank you, everyone who has donated to Third Eye Salon, because that's how we were able to expand into other realms. Really appreciate your donations. It makes a difference. And if you're enjoying this, join us further in our Facebook group, because our conversations expand and you never know where they're going to go with that group. So, but we do know it's always loving and supportive. So if you're wanting to find a group that really is, come join us there if you haven't already. Dayna, I'm really excited to meet you and hear you. And I want to first just say thank you for putting your audio book or your book in an audio book for us. For those of us that are dyslexic and make it really hard for us to read, I love that you've done that right off the bat, because so many authors haven't. So if that is you, it is available in an audiobook, everybody. Yay!
Yay. And it's the narrator is, I'm just in love with him too. He's so good. Thank you. I'm so glad that worked for you.
All right, thank you, Miss Dayna. We're going to talk more to Dayna in a minute here, but let's also say hello to Jason Adkins. Why, this man, he's amazing. He is a psychic medium. He's also an artistic channel for your ET guides and family. Jason, how are you doing today? You got some lovely artwork behind you, as always. We've got the, I believe, Arcturians behind you, or yes.
Oh, look at the Lord. Cat-like reflexes. You know, well, they said they were going to come out and get the party started. Look, now I'm here 2 weeks in a row. Surprise.
We decided that we're so excited to have Dayna on the show. We decided to make it a party. So all the hosts are on today.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so interested in hearing Dayna's story. I've listened to one of the other shows that she was on. It was fascinating. There were parts of it that I resonated so much with the experiences that you've had. I'm also so glad to be back with the beautiful Angela. It's been a minute. She's always, words of wisdom. So I'm just so glad to be able to participate. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, of course, our absolute pleasure. Speaking of Angela, why, she's not just an artist, not just a motorcycle mechanic or a software engineer. She's also an amazing channel of oneness. Angela, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm so excited to get to the show today, because Dayna has such a great story to tell as someone who really wasn't into the woo-woo side of the world, coming into the woo-woo, having her own experience. I'm excited for our listeners to be able to hear that story today. So yeah, let's get to
it. That's always Angela's key line, is like, let's get into it. Enough chit chat, which I love. All right, I'm going to hop in and read Dayna's bio for everyone. This will kind of give you an insight if you've not been following our conversations in our Third Eye Salon group. So Dayna Dunbar is an award-winning novelist published by Ballantine Books. In 1994, Dayna had an encounter with an extraterrestrial being of light while camping in Sedona, Arizona, and got guidance that she would one day write about this race of beings, and that began her writing journey. Knowing that creating an awakened world with well-developed characters and a compelling storyline was far beyond her skills at that time, she followed guidance and began writing screenplays. She worked on the crew of several films, and this spurred her creativity even further. Dayna attended the University of Santa Monica and received her master's degree in spiritual psychology. As a part of this program, she wrote her first novel, The Saints and Sinners of OK County, a story about a closeted psychic who overcame her self-doubt to follow her own inner voice and find her authentic self. And that psychic is Linda Coulter Burge. No, just kidding. There's a strong parallel. But we're going to definitely talk about that first book. Upon graduating, Dayna received the university's Student of the Year award along with best-selling inspirational author, I'm going to say it right, Iyanla Vanzant. Did I say that right?
Yes, you said it right.
Oh,
good
all
job.
Right. It's hard. It's a hard one. Shortly after graduation, Dunbar's first novel was published to excellent reviews and awards. Her second novel, The Wings That Fly Us Home, a sequel to Saints and Sinners, also garnered wonderful reviews. During this time, Dayna began ghostwriting memoirs for her clients, as well as writing and inspirational coaching. Then in 2014, almost exactly 20 years to the day that she had the ET encounter, she was finally guided to begin the novel that started the whole journey, and she received the idea for Awake, the Legacy of Akara, a spiritual sci-fi thriller about an awakened race of beings. She wrote the first draft, but as originally believed, it turned out to be an enormous undertaking, and in order to complete it, she began working with the brilliant Julia Nadine Padower, who she met at the University of Santa Monica. Together, they labored for 7 years to perfect the manuscript and are thrilled to share it with the world at this turbulent time in the evolution of human consciousness. So please give us a thumbs up, give us some love in the comments if you're excited to find out about Dayna's latest book and how that connects with her ET connection. So yeah, let's just go ahead. Let's take Angela's advice and dive right in. Before we get into the whole juicy bit where we talk about where you first meet Kaia in the desert, I'm so excited about that. But I want to hear about your first book, because I think that, you know, I made a little joke about that being Linda's story, because it is, in terms of someone being a closeted psychic rather, and then, you know, popping their head out again, pulling away, that whole dance. And I wanted to know what inspired that book for you, and let us know about, it's Aletta, that's the main character, is that right?
Aletta Honor. Yeah. So I knew once I had my experience in Sedona that I was supposed to start writing. I wanted to write before that, but it was a mandate at that point. I still waited for another couple of years. I was so insecure, and, you know, I just didn't believe in myself, and thought that if I wasn't Charles Dickens or Jane Austen, who I loved, those were my favorite authors, that I couldn't, you know, why bother? And I began writing screenplays once I did start writing, and it was just like very clear. And that happened in a medicine wheel too. Do you want me to just tell you, in order to tell you about Aletta, I have to kind of tell you what my journey, because the way that I came to Aletta was, a process. Everything is, you know, my writing has been a spiritual journey as much as relationships and, dealing with being in a body and all of that. So, so I started writing screenplays, and because they were 90 pages partly. And that was just the guidance I got. It's like, start writing screenplays. So I wrote 4 screenplays in 4 years, but I always knew I wanted to write novels. And I always knew I was going to be eventually writing what became Awake. And then finally one day, you know, it was like my last screenplay. It was like, you know, I put it out there. It wasn't going anywhere, but I learned so much. I'm like, okay, what next? I finally got the guidance to write a novel. And I ended up writing that in at the University of Santa Monica as my second year project. what I really was inspired by was the women I grew up with in a small town in Oklahoma. They were, to me, what they did was just magical. All the men in my family were narcissistic-ish, alcoholic-y type guys. and all the women were, the women took care of everything. They, bought the food, they, did the work, they made the money, and they did all, the birthday parties, they seemed to do everything. So I just wanted to honor them. And, but I didn't know the character, I didn't have the character. And one day I was in a hot tub with my mom and a friend of hers. And my mom has this super heavy accent. She's like super oaky. And so her friend does too. And her friend started telling me that she was a closeted psychic, that she grew up in the Pentecostal church, and she would see things about people when she was a kid and start to tell them. And they told her that it was the devil and all of that. And so she'd been in, didn't tell people about it, and still was hiding it. Lives in Oklahoma, and but she had a glass of wine in her, and she opened up, and I was like, oh my God, there's my character. And it really paralleled me, because being gay, it's like coming out of the closet was, a huge thing. So I put a letter in 1976 in the bicentennial year, instead of making it modern, because it was so much more innocent back then. And coming out as a psychic in a small town in Oklahoma in the 70s, and being, not having any real power as a woman and all that. So that's where I got a letter from.
That, I just think I like that so much, because I feel like it is a story in so many ways of other women and I mean men as well. There are men who, it's a whole other different stigma, I would think, but like especially during that time in the South, like we were talking before we went live, how it's either Jesus or Satan, down in the South, where Jason's from the South as well. So it's quite a feat to come out in that environment, and being gay as well, coming out in the 80s. I get it. It is not easy, but it's kind of critical to your own happiness and well-being.
Yeah, it is. And I think everybody's coming out a little bit, even if you're a white, straight man, to come out as sensitive, it's like is having some feelings, and, just it's, or being creative, or whatever it is that they're not supposed to be. So.
Lots of closets to come out of for everybody.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. As we get to be who we really are. I wanted to talk to you. I don't know, at some point I would like to talk to you about your experiences with the caves and the indigenous people. Oh. If you're okay to talk about that, but I also want to make sure that you're cool with that. And if that's not, then we can not.
Yeah, no, I'm okay to talk about it. Once I started talking about Kaia and my experience with meeting her, which I didn't do for the first 50 whatever years of, it just started after the book was published. So that's a coming out of the closet for me as well. Then I realized that these stories are so powerful for, people to really open up to and start to believe in. There is so much more.
Yeah. Okay, good. So let's put a bookmark there. We're going to come back to that. I wanted to flip way back in your personal journey to being sick on the couch watching Shirley MacLaine. We bonded over Shirley MacLaine in our pre-show chat. Mm-hmm. So, because you were, tell us, like, you were like an atheist. You were, a kid just kind of living your life, and then out on a limb came into your consciousness. And what a great pivotal piece of work that is. So would you share that experience with us?
Sure. So, at 14, I decided I was an atheist because, I was gay and Jesus doesn't like gay people, and, whatever. So nutty. And so I decided I was an atheist and an intellectual. And but then I got very ill, and I had a skin condition from head to toe, and had just been in the hospital with it, ER, came home, was lying on the couch, and, we had 3 channels back then. On came this, and I adored Shirley MacLaine. And so on came this show, and I was like, and it went deep into my subconscious. And it was just, it just opened me up. I didn't know at the time it had such a profound effect. It wasn't like I went from here to here and like, like Angela, where it's like 2 years ago, she's, kind of a software engineer, and now she's, channeling light languages. I know it was not quite that drastic, but still, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that. So yeah, so I just loved it. I mean, and the fact that it was her, her work was so amazing, and she was so legit, and that this story was on network television in the 80s. I was just like, it must have some legitimacy. They wouldn't let her put something up that it's just not, it's completely made up. And so, yeah, I was just blown away by it. And it just kind of, I guess, yeah, that's what opened me up to that there are other things. Plus, I was so sick. That was the other thing. I was so sick that I was really available for something else, because the modern medicine, the Western medicine, wasn't working at all. And I was just like, there has to be something else going on here. And love, I'm a lover of love. And so it's like, oh, spirituality is about love and being one, she's like stands on the beach and says, I am God at one point. I mean, it's radical. And I just was like, oh, that feels right. Not that this one person out there was the only God like being that there could ever be at one time, in ancient days. It's like, and you're just, you can never get to where he is, but you have to feel guilty and try. You have to keep trying to get there, but you'll never get there. And you need to feel guilty that you're not going to get there. It's just this absolute,
That's so exactly right. Not only will you never get there, you should feel bad that it's impossible for you to get there.
Exactly.
So
Eternally guilty and just bad that you're not ever going to be that. But you need to just push yourself and hate yourself into trying, So yeah, so it just was something. Yeah, it was just such a beautiful thing. And then the channel. I mean, there were channels in it, and then the ET encounter and all this. I was just like, wow, I would have never opened up to that like that if it hadn't been, first of all, the visual medium too. And that's why I'm really hoping Awake gets made into a film.
Yes.
Because it's just so many more people the message gets to so many more people, and it's such a beautiful, I just love cinema. So yeah.
Yeah,
really
we definitely will talk about that. Hop in, Miss Angela.
Yeah, so I have a quick question, and that is, how did it shift you? So you said it opened you up, it served as a catalyst for you to see something other than what you had adopted for yourself. So how did that transformation take place after you saw Out on a Limb? How did your life change?
It wasn't a huge, I didn't have a drastic shift at all, but I do know that I came upon, again, my health, my physical illness, which I had since I was a kid, it just got to a very, very acute level, really was the thing that pushed me into opening. And so I was looking for healing. And so I started reading Shakti Gawain and Louise Hay. I think that back in that day, that's how the intro for everybody, pretty much everybody.
Right.
And visualization and that kind of thing. And so, but I know that story, Out on a Limb opened me up to those. It was just it just cracked the door open a little bit, it wasn't like I went and thought about it and, had it, really dive deep, like super fan or something. It was just, it cracked the door open for me. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with this book. We were talking, Kat and I were talking about the parallels with Shirley MacLaine and then what ended up happening in my life. And now that I have this story, because she was told in there, you have to tell this story. You have this experience, and then the ET told her, you have to tell this story. So yeah, so it's this is what I'm trying to do now. I thought at the time in the 80s that we were going to be going like, whoo, spiritual conscious entertainment, it's like, here it comes, my God, we started out like at letter Z, Y or Z, surely we can do A through, and no, we went the other way. Absolutely went the other way. And so, I'm trying to kick that door down a little bit.
Yeah,
I
really, and I think you are. I think there's so much support for this book. There's so many just fantastic reviews. Jason or Linda, did you have anything to say before we get into the next section?
Well, as people watch this, one of the things I would love to do is I'm putting a link into Netflix that you can request TV shows or movies.
Oh.
I'd love for everybody to do more than picture it, but also do the real world action of requesting it, because it doesn't take that many people to request something new to start getting them to go, wonder what that is.
You can request like a book be made into a movie. You can say, I want this book. Oh, it's blurry.
Blurry.
I want this book to be made into you can?
Yes. I'll put that link in our chat.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay. That's great.
So there's my little thing right now.
Yeah.
But
thank you guys.
Yeah, I think that the books, everything you mentioned, they were little fissures in my protection that I had put up of thinking, maybe there's something to this, that I'm not so weird after all.
Right.
And it was just enough to go,
Yeah.
Exactly. Not enough for me to split open, but enough for me to talk to Kat at some point in my life.
Yeah, exactly. And really the access was, TV show and books, and art that gets to people who are across, because I really wrote this, Julie and I did, with an intention for it to be mainstream. And that's what Saints and Sinners of OK County is too. It's just, just because people like us, we're preaching to the choir at this point,
Right.
we know where we're going to, we have access. So it's getting to kids like me who I didn't have access, at all. And then all of a sudden these things came into my life through story and through books. And it's, that's what I'm trying to do here, that and share the power of storytelling for teaching.
Absolutely. Mr. Jason, did you have any questions or thoughts?
I just think that it's amazing. We always think that we're on this kind of individual path of, oh, this just is, it's only happening to me. But there's similarities, like, the coming out of the closet, right? Like I did that. And then, years later, here's another closet I'm coming out of. Now it's like, hey, guess what? I talk to dead people, like, but having faith and trusting in yourself. And the same way that the Shirley MacLaine movie was kind of the flashlight for you, I love that you made this book sci-fi so it can reach the larger audience instead of it being shoved in the new age section.
Right.
You don't know how many people this book is going to touch, and your book is going to be the flashlight the same way that the Shirley MacLaine movie was going to be for was for you. So the fact that you are sharing your story, it really is not only a gift to others, but it's a gift to yourself, right? Allowing yourself to be vulnerable and being true to who you are and what you're feeling and the experiences that you've had. And I think that that's all that any of us can ask to do is to honor our truth and just share it, whether people want to take it or not. At least it's out there. So yeah, kudos to you. Kudos to you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Wow, that really touched me because I just realized what courage Shirley MacLaine had to come out like that. Wow, when she was on top of the world, and to come out the way that she did is so courageous, and it feels courageous to me too. What I'm doing, it takes courage every day, because it's like, oh, the alien lady, because it's it's in mainstream culture, it's that's seen as really fringy, but she did it and people thought she was totally insane. But look at all the people that she touched too. It's like, okay, it's not going to be for everybody, but the ones that she touched, like me, like in the middle of, I was in Texas at the time. It's just like, and knew nothing about anything. It's like, that's the people it's like, and young people too, young people, especially. That's why it's like sci-fi and has a young adult crossover feel to it. The characters are really young. So thank you so much. Whew, that helped.
Oh, that's beautiful. And Shirley MacLaine's career still was amazing after that. Like she was still, like sought after in so many movies. So she still did so well. And I also want to say, like, no one's going to know this unless you ever meet Dayna in person, but she has the most beautiful light sea green eyes. Like they're just, it's not going to capture it. When I met you in person, I was like, oh my God. So if you ever get a chance to come up and say hello and hug her, just stare into her eyes for a moment. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Just want to put that out there. I was just amazed last week when we were hanging out. So, all right, let's talk about which came first. And you have to remind me because it's been a while since we talked about this part of it, but which came first? I know you got into meditation, and this is really annoying for me. You got into meditation and all of a sudden you could hear your guidance, which # not jealous. That's great. I'm so happy for you. But like in terms of being able to hear your guidance, like right away in your meditation to the time where you met Kaia to the time where you had the experience on the Native American land, would you kind of just take us through that narrative? Because I'm not, in my mind, I don't have it quite mapped out, right?
Sure. Well, gosh, it didn't happen where I started to just get guidance at all. That was,
okay. I feel better then. I won't be so jealous.
No, not at all. No, it's all been quite, a slog, with moments of, fireworks more. So I began meditating again because of my health. And then I moved and finished college in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And that, it's like location definitely makes a difference. So I began meditating just, and that opened me up. But that was, I was really young. It wasn't until later. And I had done, I started reading, it was a lot of healing path stuff. I was really trying to heal. And I just had this intuition that there was something spiritual here and psychological. There was something about the trauma in my life, childhood trauma. And so I just kind of kept following these, breadcrumbs. And then I started going to a Church of Religious Science. And that was really helpful. And started finding some community, and then the writing was always wanting to come, but I denied it. And then it was in '94 when, let's see. Okay, so the cave. You want me to tell the story of the cave? Because that happened in college. So I was in Santa Fe in college, and that opened me up a lot. My girlfriend and I at the time went out to this amazing place. It's an escarpment, which is where the land comes together and pushes up, and it creates this this rock jutting out of the top of this of a hill. And there's these rocks, giant flat rocks, and we went up there and we're just laying out in the sun and on top of these rocks. And because we knew it was a sacred place, there were many, many petroglyphs there on the face of the rocks. And then all of a sudden we look over and you had to go through barbed wire to get onto the land. We look up and there's some people below us. And it turns out to be a woman whose name is Teresa Pijuan. She was a professor at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and she was a storyteller for the Tewa tribe. And she taught Native American studies, and she was escorting these two German scholars to show them what the petroglyphs said and tell them what the stories were of the petroglyphs on the rocks. So Michelle and I were just like, and we just started following along like little ducklings and just listening to her stories of this place. And it was very profound. In fact, very, very intense to hear what she's had to say, because this location was a place where, when the cavalry, the US cavalry, gave blankets to the tribes in the area, and they were filled with smallpox. And so people were dying in very quickly. So they would actually take the very young and the very old up there and kill them ritually in order to prevent the spread of the disease among the healthy. So, and this was where they would do it. It was this ritual ground. And there was on one of the rocks, there was a handprint carved, and you could see the carvings were very intense. Faces that were very scared and, warning kind of things. And at one point there's a handprint, and I put my hand on the handprint, and it was the exact size of my hand. And all of a sudden I had this memory, past life memory, just like completely go through me like a tidal wave. And I was a warrior, a native warrior. And I was standing there at this place, and I was devastated that I couldn't help, and I couldn't stop what was going on. And it was just like, it was this sense of defeat. And I told Teresa about it, and she, it was just this sacred time. And then she said, would you all like to go somewhere else with me? And it was really hot and arid and intense and dry. And we said, yes, we would. And we went and got in the cars, and we drove about 40 minutes to this other place that was, it was just this field, it looked like, with some trees in the distance. And she said, we have to kind of run. Once we get through the barbed wire, we need to really move, because we're really, it's illegal for us to be on this land. She said, we always do it at night now, because we still come here and do ritual. And it was a place where we went across the field, and all of a sudden, as we're walking across the field, the clouds start to come in, and everything cools down. And it's just like, there's a bit of moisture in the air, and it was just like this feeling of something just completely shifted. And we walked through the trees, and it was this place that was out on this rock, this beautiful, just like this rock formation, but they were smooth rock formations. And in this wall of rock, there were these caves. And in the ground, there were these indentations, these beautiful, gentle indentations, where there were like almost like bathing areas. And she said, this is called the Blessing Way. And this is where the local tribes induct. There's many rituals that happen here, but the local tribes induct the young men and women into the tribe. And in their ceremony, moving from childhood to adulthood. And she said, come with me. And she took us into the women's cave, and there was another handprint on the wall, and she had me put my hand on the handprint, and behind me, she said, the the words in native, her language, Tewa, and then she said them in English. And it was about this divine being uplifted, honored, and accepted fully as an adult into and a contributing member into the sacred tribe. And then she took my hands on both my hands, and she did arm movements from behind me and said words, and I repeated the words, and she took me through the rituals that they had been taught as children for this moment. And then she turned me around and said, "You are now a member of our tribe." And so yeah, that was a moment. And then I put that in the second novel, The Wings That Fly Us Home. Aletta has come out, and she finds that she's given a feather out of nowhere, and she follows this clue to find that she has Native ancestry in New Mexico. And she goes on a quest to find these people. She doesn't know that's what the quest is, but she finds that that's what it is. And she goes through this ritual that I was put through. And that's where it comes to find out that's where her gift originates. So yeah, thank you for asking about that experience. I just had an awareness of something that I'm working with right now in my own life. Really is, it's like, oh yeah, it came from there. So thank you so much. It's really, really powerful.
We're so blessed to have you share your journey with us. It's so sacred, it's so holy, it's so personal, and there's just blessings flowing back and forth.
Thank you. Wow, that was really, I haven't shared that story like that and really remembered it to that depth, like just went there. So thank you for your kind of spaciousness and patience with letting me share it. I really appreciate that so much.
An absolute gift. Go ahead, Angela.
I would say this speaks to the power of our stories, the power of storytelling, because it's one thing for a teacher to teach you rules in a manual type fashion, do this, and this, but it's in the telling of a story that you are able to connect with the pieces from the level of the heart. And it's that space of the heart that allows that resonance to come through and move you, shift you to what needs to be seen, that speaks to you and shows you a deeper perspective of yourself, which is kind of like what just happened here, right? This is the power of storytelling in general. It doesn't matter if you've written novels, books, screenplays or not. Everybody has a story to tell, and it's worth telling because people are able to connect with it and resonate with it in a way that can shift them into a new awareness of self. Yeah. And so, yeah, this is just a powerful moment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you're definitely preaching, my message that's come through me so clearly for so long is that I'm just now realizing it's like, wow, this is so wild too. I was inducted into the tribe by a storyteller.
Right, and that's the whole thing, because even though it wasn't a novel, but it was a life story. It was an experiential story that you went through in that journey with the Native Americans. And it was a whole story in itself, but just a different perspective of a story, a different experience of a story, a more living story.
Yeah, that's right.
So to speak. Yeah.
Yes. I had never, ever put that together. I was inducted into the tribe by a storyteller.
Right.
Wow. I have such chills. That is so wild. And it was after that I got this message. It was after that experience. That was in college. It was after that I started to get this message that I was supposed to be a storyteller, and that telling stories would be the way that I would teach, and that not only me, but I've always had this vision of helping others tell their stories, their conscious stories. It's like, it's not just me. I just want this book to open doors, you know, for others as well. There's so many stories, so many great stories we have to tell that are so transformational.
That's like Esther Hicks Abraham always says, words don't teach. Right. It's that experience of the words, the feeling that you generate through the reading of the words, the experience that you allow yourself to get sucked into as you read words, that feeling that's produced that allows the shift, that teaches you, that expands you. It's not just the words themselves, but that connection to the experience of what they allow you to perceive and see. Yeah.
Yeah. And putting yourself in that position. I mean, Jesus was a great storyteller. We all put ourselves in the position of the prodigal son, right? Oh, I went out and I got in a fucking mess, you know, and I just like ruined, you know, pretty much everything. And I mean, it's like in one form or another, whether it was a relationship, your whole life, your addiction, whatever it was, it's like, yeah, we've all been there. Oh, and I get to go back and I get to be in completely like welcomed home by my Father, who wants me, is just doesn't hold any judgments of me or see me any less than that innocent child. It's like, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, thank you so much. And it's cool because I was able to contact Teresa when I started writing The Wings That Fly Us Home, which is when Aletta goes to New Mexico, and she gave me permission. She got permission from the elders. She gave me the prayers, and then she got permission from the elders for me to use the prayers that she put me through in that in the cave. So that's all in my book as well.
Nice. The other thing I wanted to point out was that it's deeper than sharing a story, like being courageous and sharing your story, having courage for the sake of having courage. It's deeper than that. And I think that speaks to Shirley MacLaine's experience, because I believe she would say it's bigger than courage. It goes further than that into an honoring of the self. It's like, how could you not share that as part of the authentic expression of who you know yourself to be? It's like you cannot not share your story. It has nothing to do with courage. It has to do with honoring who you know yourself to be and allowing yourself to be expressed in the way that you've come into this plane to express, sharing that in a way that is unique and specific to you as an individual, not giving any thought or care to the opinion of anybody else, just sharing yourself in a way that is authentic to the expression of who you know yourself to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys are really like, wow, you are dropping truth and just beautiful diamonds. Jason before and now you, I mean, and just super needing to hear exactly what you guys are saying. So thank you. This is amazing. Thank you guys.
It is amazing. There's a great synergy happening right now. I have to say, there's just an alignment that's going on, and how precious and sacred and generous of them to give, of the indigenous people to give their holy scripture, essentially, you know, to the people, out to the people who, going back to that horrific time when the smallpox was used as a viral weapon. How history repeats itself. I'm just wondering, when you put your hand on that handprint, were you remembering yourself as that being, or were you remembering the memories of the person who had put their handprint there?
I was that being.
You were that being.
Yeah, I was him. Yeah, I was. That was one of my past lives. That was the first past life that I remembered. And I was him, actually. And that defeat thing that I experienced, because when I was telling you all, I actually had the experience again. And I think that's the first time that I've let myself go there again like that. I think it's the synergy here, the energy of what is created in this group that has allowed me to really re-experience that. And so in re-experiencing it, feeling that defeat of a warrior, this beautiful, like big dignified, and that like being a warrior and protecting my people was my entire reason for being, and honoring. I was honored to do it, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I had to not only, because I was there killing people, my own people, in order to protect the others, I had to kill babies and old people, grandparents and children, in order to protect the others. That's what I was reduced to. So, that defeat and just like that loss of dignity and innocence. Wow, so intense. That's what we were talking about before, Linda, is, it's not traumatizing, but it's very intense and disturbing. It can be, but it's also healing. And I'm really seeing how that feeling of defeat comes up for me. And I'm just like, I know it. I think I just needed to.
So, all things hold energy. All things, even though we perceive them as solid, everything is energy. All things hold energy. And so we have the ability to tap into many things as we experience and traverse life. The touching of that spot was just a transference of an energy that was imprinted into that space.
Yeah.
And you allowed yourself to feel that. But in the feeling of that, there's a choice that has to be made on whether or not you choose to hold that or to allow it to pass through you in order to be transmuted. So the work is not to hold that and take on that pain and that suffering and to suffer through that with them. It's to honor what occurred in that space, allow that energy to pass through you as a conduit and send that off and to be transmuted and converted, and to acknowledge the lesson, the journey, the experience, the role that the players played in order to play that scene out, and to reveal a bigger awareness of self to the people and the players that were involved in that experience, to pick out the pieces that allow you to grow from that experience and not hold to the pain and suffering that was a part of the lesson, the bigger lesson that was intended to be learned, or the bigger experience that was intended to be taken away from that experience. Not to hold to the pain, but see it for what it is through the eyes and through the perspective of love that you now hold, and allow that to be transmuted through you. We are all conduits. We are all conduits to the pain and suffering. That's how the world gets changed. We see the pain and suffering, but we can see it from a bigger perspective of what it truly is, and the benefit it's yielded us as being able to see the experience of what happened, taking away the lessons that were part of that experience and transmuting it from that perspective, seeing how we can build on it to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. And I'm really, really, really into right now some trauma work where really being with and really like allowing those feelings, because man, that's energy. And like, if we don't really face, because we've all had trauma at this point, right? We've all had trauma. So a huge part for me of the transcendence and moving into the higher dimensions is going to be, and is really, really being with the intensity of the feelings of being human. And that how deeply separate this seeming this world of duality can feel, and those feelings, honoring even the feelings such that they really, it's like being washed clean, it's like feeling that it's just like this intense energy of like being washed clean. Because at the time I couldn't feel it. I couldn't let myself really feel and process through that. I had to go, keep things together, at least to whatever degree they could be kept together. For others, it was in service to others that that I couldn't feel those feelings. And so now, and we've all been there, it's like survival mode, and we just stuff the feelings down, and then we just carry them on, hoping that that some like transcendent state is gonna transmute them, right? That we're gonna get into some transcendent state where we see it all and it all is fine, and we don't have to feel the feelings, because the feelings are very painful.
That's exactly right. I think that's where the spiritual bypassing comes in, speaking as a recoverer of spiritual bypassing, where it's like, oh, okay, I dealt with that. Like I felt it, but it's like, if you don't feel it all the way through and you don't honor it, feel it all the way through, then it's still in you, and it's still going to be creating some bit of chaos or suffering in your life. And I just want to honor the whole thing with this book. I feel like this book is your way of coming back as the warrior and the storyteller, and saying, look at because the book, the legacy of Akara is not a pretty one. It's not, it's like, sounds beautiful. Oh, the legacy of Akara. No, it's not a beautiful legacy. It parallels the legacy of colonialism,
right?
And what that was about. Like, that's the legacy, and that is not a pretty, happy anything. It's the horrors of colonialism. And so, you coming in as the warrior and storyteller, saying this is what happened, it's atrocious. And I feel that whole like Gandalf staff hitting the earth, saying no more, no more, not on my watch, no more, is what I feel empathically coming through.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. That's a huge part of it. Yes.
Miss Linda.
Yeah. As you were telling that story, I was holding it together the best I could so I could hear you, feeling it completely. And what came up for me was a past life regression that I had of being a healer, Native American healer, trying desperately to find herbs to solve this mysterious illness that I couldn't solve, and people dying. And that weight, that same weight of carrying that. And the culmination of that was that when my tribe died, I threw myself off a cliff because I was what was left.
Whoa. That is, I'm just like, whoa. Oh my gosh. One of my dear friends, who is also a meditation teacher. I do meditation with her every Sunday. She's so amazing, so profound. She had the exact same experience. But she was a leader. She was a leader of a tribe, and she, wow, that just, she convinced people to stay where they were and not flee, because she thought her medicine could prevent, like this shamanic medicine. She was a shaman, could prevent them being hurt. And then she convinced them to stay, and the tribe was wiped out.
Right.
And she threw herself off a cliff. And because of it, it's like, wow. And that's like I think it's the energy of this. Like right now, like I'm feeling like, woo, we can clear some of this stuff, because this is like some serious like karma for this country.
It really is. One of the things that I wanted to bring up with all of that was that there are times in my life where I laid there. I didn't die right away. I laid there for a few days with my legs, my hip broken, until I finally passed. And there are times in my life that hip starts to ache. For me, it's this recurring, what is the lesson in your life right now, where that energy is being pulled in, where you're repeating a pattern, where you're usually it's me taking responsibility for someone else's suffering, is often when it comes in.
That would make sense. Sure.
Me wanting to fix things.
Right. Oh, wow.
So for me, I encourage, if people are having these experiences, to go back and think about the mindset, the heart sense, the deep energetic feelings that were happening during that memory that you're having.
Yeah.
And when it's coming up in your life now, how is it applying, and how can we transmute it and release it?
Yes.
That you do have to feel it. You move through it, not around it.
Right.
The way it's through it. And by going through it, it was like, oh, I get it. And now I can, for me, it's these signals that I can look at.
Yeah.
But what am I doing now that is it serving me? Because that me from then is trying to tell me something now.
Absolutely. I'm literally taking notes. I'm taking freaking notes right now. I mean, this is like, wow. Oh,
This
my
is the power of
gosh.
people coming together in love right here. I just feel like there's this lesson being channeled, this teaching being channeled through all of us as this collective, in our collective group, our fractal collective that we're coming through with, and we're all being conduits. And it's such an honor. I don't think I've ever seen this happen ever like this on the show to this capacity. So I just want to say thank you for being the herald of this energy, Dayna, and being the 0 point for this to come through. Such a
thank
blessing.
you guys. I mean, I'm just like really, really honored and blown away. I feel like there's some real clearing happening right now, and it seems like something's wanting this collective karma that we carry with this. Because I'll tell you another thing that with the finding out about the smallpox, I didn't know that happened until until that moment. I didn't know that had really. And so to see it like that, and to and Teresa was talking about it, but before that, it wasn't like I'd studied it or anything like that. It was just it was so vivid. And so that was that was a really powerful moment. Really.
And I didn't know until probably 3 weeks ago, actually in a session that I had with one of the people in our group, Mel, researching something she wanted me to look up, that Native, in many tribes and Native American healers, if they were unsuccessful in healing, the family of the person had the right to have them killed.
Wow. Yeah.
Or they had the personal responsibility to take care of themselves.
Right.
Yeah, and so that weight, it's like, I understand. Yeah. It wasn't just sorrow taking me over the cliff. It was obligation.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. And that's what my friend, it was her obligation to go over, not just.
Yeah. At first, I mean, the sorrow was so overwhelming, but it was duty.
Yes. Right. It was like a ritual duty to sacrifice. Yeah. Wow.
That's wild.
So many nuggets in this conversation, because like even the awareness and how it just came out of the blue, that just speaks to the way spirit works, right? Brings to your awareness what you need in the moment that you need it. You don't have to seek it out. You don't have to study for it. You don't have to get prepared, do any preparation for it. You don't have to pay for it. It just comes when you need it, in the moment that you need it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
In the way that you need to receive it.
Exactly. And that's the trust, isn't it? Like that's where it's just trusting in that moment to moment, like arising, like this is so spontaneous, we couldn't have created this. We certainly, it's like, let's prepare and figure out how to make this happen. It's like, there's no way to plan this. And that's where the ego mind just can, just like surrender. And I have to say, a lot of these things, of these kind of memories and healing these things and feeling through them, and even traumas from this life, can let that survival mechanism start to calm down so we can live
Mm.
more in the moment and not be like, like what's going to happen next, and be our nervous systems be so jacked up we are expecting the worst.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a healing path what we're on.
It really is. And I want to correct one thing. This happens because Kat had a vision that this would be the kind of environment we would create.
Mhm.
So thank you, Kat.
Definitely. Yes. Thank you, Kat. Absolutely.
Thank you, Linda. That was very precious. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, let's talk about the whole fractal family, since we are a bit of a fractal family happening right now, right here.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about Dayna's experience being with her girlfriend and being out meditating, and her encounter with Kaia. Because when we were talking about this in our pre-show talk, I was like, yeah, these are our elevated fractal families, and Dayna was like, yes, that's exactly, like, that terminology really fits.
Oh my gosh. I was like, yes, I love that. It's so cool. Yeah.
So let's go ahead. I'm going to step away for a quick moment, but let's go ahead and hear that. And if you want to guide us through that story, Dayna, that would be awesome.
Sure. So it was June of 1994, and I had heard through a coworker that there was this amazing place in Sedona, Arizona. I was in San Francisco at the time. And I'd never been to Sedona, but there was this beautiful, amazing spiritual place, and she had this secret campsite that she said I should go to. So I got the directions, like, okay, how to get there and everything. And my new girlfriend and I at the time, her name was Chris. She came from LA, and we drove out to Sedona, and we went to the campsite, which was 3 miles up this totally rutted out dirt road past the cattle guard, and found the place. And it was back then you could actually dry camp up there and have a fire and everything. Like, can you imagine now? So we were up there by ourselves, and there was already a medicine wheel on the property, which was absolutely stunning. Obviously built with a lot of love and care and energy and connection. And we camped for a couple of days. Really, the nature started to seep into us, and we there were red rock spires all the way around us in at this site. It was just stunning, and it was on red rock as well. And we camped for 3 or 4 days maybe, and then we went down to town and went to a new age bookstore for an afternoon to get out of the heat, and did a meditation with the guy. And at the time aliens were not something that I was, I thought surely there must be some, because there's just so many, planets in the galaxy, but I didn't think, oh, they're here and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't, I didn't have that insight or experience. And so, but he led us through this meditation. And then at the end, he said, it's very Sedona. He said, there's a mothership hovering over the building now. We're calling one in. And Chris and I just looked at each other like, what? That's so funny. That's so cool. So Sedona. And he had written a book called Sedona UFO Experience, and we bought it. And it was more like a novelty, like a Hawaiian shirt from a luau to us at the time. But we went back up to the site, and evening, started to get evening. We went into the medicine wheel and put on this beautiful music, very ethereal music. And we were dancing and stuff. And it was just a beautiful night. And then went back to the campfire, and after dinner, I was hugging Chris. And I looked up, and in the sky, the Scorpio was the constellation, just kind of right on the horizon. And I saw light start to move, and it was kind of this little bit of an orange hue, and it started to move. It looked like a star. And it started to swim away from us, kind of like in an S shape. And And I was like, oh my God, that's moving. And Chris turned around and saw it. And she said, yes, it is. And something came through me. And I just said, it wasn't me. It was something else came through and just said, if we see you, if you want to communicate, we're here. And immediately the light started to come back. It turned and it immediately came back. And then it came, and we were at the campfire, chairs here in the campfire, and it just came right in front of us. And it was quite large. And I couldn't see what it was made of, because it was just light. It was just this light. And it looked like it was moving, spinning kind of light, but it was like this light orange hue. And then we saw all of a sudden two other very smaller, because they were further away, I think. I don't know what size the ships were, but they were further away. Like other lights light up behind it. So there was one here, the big one, and then two like this, and they were like sentries almost, you know. And so there were three of them. And as soon as the light started to come back, the ship started to come back, I said, I was like, oh, they want to talk to you, to Chris, because she had done some astral projection before. I had never done anything like that. And I was like, oh, they must be here for you. You do that real woo-woo stuff, you know? And she'd only been able to do it once, but she was always trying, like wanting to have that experience again. And it was just this moment of doubt, you know, self-doubt. And so she said, okay, so they got, you know, the ships there, and she went out into the medicine wheel. She just intuited to go out in the medicine wheel. And she laid down in the medicine wheel, because that's the way she meditates. She lays down. So she laid down in the medicine wheel, and all of a sudden I saw light go from her body to the ship and then back down again. And it was like this circuit of light. And I just went, oh, you be good to her. It scared me. And so I said it to the ship, and then I heard telepathically, I heard a woman's voice, a female voice, say, don't worry, we will. And I was like, and I realized that I recognized the voice, and it was it was just one of those moments where it's like, this can't be happening. I recognized the voice, and I said, Kaia, is that you? And she said, she was like this smile, and she said, yes, it is. And what had happened for the previous 6 months, and I had never had anything like this happen before, a female energy started to come to me, and when I would meditate, and it would just sit in meditation. Every time I closed my eyes, this energy, this being would show up in front of me, and she was so present, and I could feel her, and she was so loving and so amazing. And she told me her name was Kaia, and we would just commune. She just wanted to be with me. She was just there, and she wanted to be with me. And so it was kind of weird. I told a few friends about it, because I was still kind of in the closet back then. So I told a few friends, I was like, I don't know what this is. She doesn't really talk. I don't know. She just keeps showing up, and it's like, this is so bizarre. And so, but I realized at that moment that was her. And later I realized that she had been preparing me for this experience, because she knew it would freak me out. And so, yeah, she'd been preparing me. So we started to have a conversation at the campfire. And I said, you know, there was this profound, blissful, loving energy, which was the primary experience of the whole thing. So words were so, you know, just like little McDonald's wrappers in the redwood forest kind of. It was like, you know, they were just so not, it's like, it's just part of this. But I said, why are you here? And she said, we're here because Earth in humanity is in a transition, and that we're here to see what happens, and we're here to hold the light. We're here to hold for this happening. We are not here to intervene directly. We're not here to show ourselves. That's not our thing, as far as like on a wider scale, to land and, you know, get out and say, hey, let's talk. But we're here to it's like it's a hot spot in the universe kind of a thing. This is like where all the action is right now. And we're, you know, it's possible for the transcendence into the next dimensions, or it could be that Earth doesn't make it. And so we're really here, and we're helping in all the ways that we can, but we're not going to, at least at that time, gonna just, you know, land on the White House lawn type of thing. So, and then we just sat there and just loving, and then I saw the light disappear from Chris, and she got up and she walked back to me, and she told me about her experience, which was she had gone in her light body into the ship. And I don't really go into this part because it's her story, but she did meet a male being who had very similar experience, similar conversation, totally loving, totally life-changing for her. And then after she would finish telling me, I said, I was in the middle of a conversation. I think I should finish it. And she said, yeah, you should. And so I went out to the medicine wheel and I sat down and cross-legged, and I said, okay, I'm ready to come up. And Kaia said, hold on just a moment. And she kind of did this convening, what I could tell us there, she was convening with some others. And she said, came back and she said, you can't come. And I said, why not? Chris got to. Those were my exact words. Why not? Chris got to. And she said, because you're not ready. Your energy, it would be too much for you energetically right now. It would not, you wouldn't be able to handle it. And I said, oh, all right. I said, well, can you come here? And she said, yes, I can. And it was this happy, yes, I can. She was so happy that I asked. And so right then I just felt this presence in front of me stronger than I'd ever felt it. And I've had my eyes closed because, again, it was how we always had communicated. And then I opened my eyes and I could actually see the side of her face, like this little, it was like a filament of light, the side of her face and her neck. And she was very long and lean, but I could barely see her. It was really just this energy, a little bit of energy. And all of a sudden, from behind me, the most beautiful thing happened. The smoke wafted over her form. And you know how when you hold a flashlight into smoke and it looks like it's solid, you can see the beam. That's what happened to her. So she was like this light beam, and then the smoke went over her, and then it filled out her form. And I could see her face, and I could see her neck and her torso and her shoulder. And she was just beautiful, but had no hair, big eyes, but not like bug eyes. Very long and lean and beautiful. And I just was breathtaking. And I was just sitting there, just, you know, it was just like being in her energy. It was just totally breathtaking. And then at one point she put her hand out. The love was so profound. She looked at me like I think like maybe, you know, if we look at a little perfect brand new puppy or something, where it's just like that kind of loving, and you just want to hold them and squeeze them, you know. And so she put her hand on my shoulder, and it went into my body, and it was so, the energy was so intense that my energy body started going like that inside, like I couldn't handle it at all. And I said, you can't touch me. And she pulled her hand back, and she was like, you know, she really, really wanted to not only touch me, but hold me. And and then we just sat there in this deep, profound love until I said, I guess I should get back to Chris. And she said, yeah, you should. And then I got up and walked back, and we sat there and watched these ships till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were doing like amazing things, you know, like it's like popping in and out, going from, you know, like boop, 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 like zero, you know, laws of physics were at play than ones that we we think we know about. It was amazing. We just sat there and watched them. It was like they put on a show for us. And then, and then we went to bed, and the next day I got guidance that I was supposed to write this book one day.
All right, let's open it up for conversation. Miss Angela.
Yeah, I have a question. So have you recognized her as a guide or an aspect of you?
Well, at first, for the longest time, I thought she was a guide.
Yeah.
But then recently I've come to realize I think that she's a future self, you know, and that she's probably more than just me. That she's like a some level of group soul being, is what my sense is, that I've, you know, been more and more kind of connecting with her since the book came out. And that's been what's coming through. It's like, oh my goodness, she's me and in the future, like, but it's not just me, you know,
it's like a higher self.
Yeah.
It's a
that has
higher
aspects.
Yeah, it's a higher self with, and you know, I think if you guys read the Law of One about social memory complex and how that we're going to be more and more like, you know, first of all, the seeming individual, and then these big groups, and then even two beings and coming together, and then we just get more and more, and then we just become one, and then all the separations cease, and then we're just back into oneness completely. So I think she's some level of social memory complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of things too, if I can. So when you were talking about when you were starting the meditation and she would show up, and you said that she was preparing you. For me, I heard attuning you, like attuning your energy, which makes sense when you asked to go up to the ship, your energy wasn't quite to the level, which you found out when she tried to touch you, right? I've got the chill bumps. You also have all this energy just kind of swirling behind you. And so that when you're talking about her, I get the slender, the bald head. And like when you're talking about the eyes, it's not these big giant eyes. For me, instead of how our eyes sit like this, for me, I see them more
absolutely
like almondy, like diamond, not like these huge gray, you know, but there's just slant, which makes them then look different than our eyes. Also, when you were talking about Chris going up into the ship, I was going to ask, but she shared, and so I'm glad that you kind of gave us a little nugget of that. Did she? And it's okay. The answer is okay if you say no. Did she mention anything about there being two different types? I see tall and small. Like taller beings, like the ones that she would have met and like you met, but then also working along with them, small, like there's two different energies. There's a tall and there's a small.
Right. No, hers was, she just met one being, and I think maybe they did that for us. It was, I'll tell you what her experience was, because we're just, you know, what the hell. So she was in a room that was like an observation room, and it was kind of like a step down seats and like an auditorium, but a small one. And the being started to, which was, she said that he didn't have any features really. Even his face didn't have any features, and his hand was like there was 3 fingers, like, and one finger was like this, and then 2 other fingers. But we afterwards, when we talked about it, we think that he was in some sort of suit so that she could handle being around him.
Oh, it was like an energy containment suit. So his
Containment suit.
vibration wouldn't blast her out of the ship.
Exactly. Right.
Oh, I just got chills.
Yeah. So he didn't have features or anything. It was like he was completely, but he had hands. And so, but she said his energy was so beautiful, so profound. And he took her hand and he started to lead her down, and down at the bottom of this room, this observation looking room, was a platform, and then a kind of a platform table. And she got scared. She was like, that sounds I'm not feeling it, So she said, he felt her get scared, and he said, oh, it's okay. We can just sit right here. And so they sat down on the steps. They were leading down there, and they just had basically a lot of the same experience that I had with Kaia. She asked him what they were doing here. He said the same things. It was just a lot of communion. And so that was what her experience was. And she feels like if she had gone down and had been able to handle and like, okay, she feels like there would have been other beings who would have come in to potentially like talk to her and interview her. She doesn't know what would have happened, but she got scared because of all the abduction horror stories.
Right.
And so he didn't have her go. He just said that was okay.
I also I really, really love the fact that you said that it wasn't so much the words that were important. It was the energy that she was giving off to you.
Right.
And I think when other people have these types of experiences, because we're human, we communicate verbally.
Right.
Like we want those energies to do the same thing with us. But if you can just stop for a minute, relax, and just allow yourself to soak up. I've got the chill bump so bad, the hair standing up. If you can allow yourself to just soak in the energy around you, that's more communication. Like it's a next level communication.
Exactly.
That it has all the words, it has all their feelings.
That's right.
It's an amazing experience. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the imagery of the flashlight and the smoke. I think we all know what that looks like, and you can I feel like I'm going to work on something. I feel like I may work on something for you.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be so cool. I'd love to see it. Yeah, I'd love to see that. That'd be super, super cool. We were just talking about that kind of cat, weren't we? About being able to see the beings. Yeah.
I was talking about how Jason's able to do that. All right, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Well, just what I love what Jason was saying, because this is where we're going. Right. What she was showing me and telling me, but she was not talking. She was showing me where we're going. This is what we're going toward. And so, and part of us, it's like time doesn't exist. So part of us it's already happening. But where we are right now in this experience of the veil, that we can't see it all. It's like as the veil lifts and we heal and we clear and we come into who we really are, we get to move up and see other dimensions that we're already vibrating at, right? And have that experience and bring the earth with us. The earth, the whole Gaia is coming up too. And so, spirit's expressing itself this way and through us, we're getting to have this experience. But that's what it's true. It wasn't about the words. It was about, this is, feel this, know this, embody this. And then this is, it's this in storytelling, the primary directive is show, don't tell. So it's like I was being shown, not told, what's the truth. Yeah.
We do a lot of this already. We're just not aware of it, right? We intuit those feelings from people, whether they say certain words or they don't. We feel that it already. It's innate. We're just becoming more aware of the fact that we do that. The other point I wanted to make was that Shirley Batty, in one of her books, I can't remember which book it was, but she also mentions the suits, being able to hold back irradiation because we are not
really
attuned to a certain vibratory
cool.
level in order to meet our celestial friends face to face. We aren't at that level yet, but that speaks to that. So it kind of confirms.
Wow.
both.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had never heard that. Yeah. Yeah. I'd never heard any of that. I don't read a whole lot about, this, other people's experiences and stuff. I don't want to get too influenced. And then they start getting into Zeta Reticula, because I don't even know what those are. They're a little bit scary. It can get a little scary. You know what I mean? With the little green guys and all that stuff. But I've read something recently, actually, by somebody who's become a friend of mine, who was an abductee. And the most ground, feet on the ground, just like total doubter could possible. And she finally finds out that she actually had been abducted while she was in Iceland working for the military. And she had the realization that our fear of all of this really creates so much of the problem.
Right.
It creates the problems that really, that there's not the bad, they're not trying to hurt us, and even whatever different races and stuff, they're not trying to hurt us. I just read that and I was like, oh, okay. From the point of view, and she was terrified of remembering it, terrified.
Right.
And then she finally did. And it was like, oh, it was actually my fear that was the problem, not what happened.
Right. Dolores Cannon speaks to a lot of this because she's done a lot of regressions, has a lot of regression work. And in her work, it explains how in most cases, well, in all of the cases that she's done, they've come to get those who are family to take them aboard and work out healing and make adjustments and bring back. But we have that collective ingrained taught fear, around the whole subject itself. But in all cases, if you speak to people who've been abducted, in most cases, if they have any conscious memory of what's happened, they always report that there's an improvement that's occurred after the fact.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. That's exactly it. That, she became a investigator with MUFON, which is like I can't remember but it's a UFO, reporting investigative group that goes and investigates reports and everything. So she, really started to see that was true, that people's lives improved rather than, being ruined by it.
Right. The more you know.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
And we have got a question from Dayna, another Dayna in the audience here. And it actually relates to the thing I was going to ask you. She asks, what did the feeling feel like when Kaia touched you? And I know that you touched on it a little bit, that your energy body was vibrating like all crazy, but like it impacted you for the next year. Like you were ungrounded for a year afterwards.
I was.
So maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, I was actually super grateful that she didn't have me come up on the ship. Once I got after, it was just like I was so ungrounded, and it felt so strange for her to her hand penetrated my body as if it wasn't there, and all that was there. I mean, now that I think about it, this form, it couldn't. It's not really. I guess it's not really there. She put her hand through it like it was nothing, and then it was just almost like, molecules of light or something, but it was literally my whole energy body. It wasn't like this. It was like back and forth like this. It was so intense, the movement. And it was just like, someone, I was in a something being shaken up, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I said, you can't touch me. It was so intense. And then, but then after, for the next year, at least, I mean, I don't know if I've been super grounded ever freaking since, actually, but, I was just like what am I supposed to do with this world? It just totally, it was like Neo in the Matrix. It was like, I took the pill and I'm like, this is the world is everything I thought was real and solid and true. And you could, hang your hat on and kind of like, was just blown out of proportion. It was just gone in a way. And so it was very difficult to navigate the world and know how I was supposed to integrate this experience with what I thought I knew before. And so, yeah, it was quite intense. And I guess I'm still, trying to integrate. That's what we're all doing, right? We're trying to integrate this light energy that we're now opening to the access that you all are just like blow me away. I feel like you all have so much access in ways like light language that, Angela speaks and the intuitive work that you're doing, Linda, it's like, and Jason talking to dead people, it's like amazing. And Kat, I know you have like super, psychic, empathic experiences. So you all are such leaders and teachers, but we're all being called forth with those energies, and everybody on here I know is feeling this as themselves. And so it's integrating that light with the old paradigms and and healing that trauma. It's like the bottom up work we have to do in order to open and have this top down energies be able to be integrated. So, that's what I've been doing ever since. But at first it was so drastic, the difference between what I thought was real and what I'd opened up to, and energetically on every level. It was quite distracting.
When you talk about her putting her hand in you, do you remember like whether it's like the old arcades where they would have the machine that had the two metal poles, and they were like, it's supposed to be like an it's supposed to be like electricity, but it really just vibrated really hard, and like you would hold on to them.
Okay.
And it vibrates so hard, and I'll have to find a picture and I'll post it in the group.
Yeah.
But you hold on to it and it just vibrates. It's not shocking you, but then afterwards it's like you can still feel like the trembles in your hand. Like that's the picture that I get in my head when you talk about it. And this is and on a side note, this is kind of funny. I just had a flash. If and when you write an autobiography and they make a movie of it, is her name Kate McKinnon from Saturday Night Live?
Oh yeah.
That is who I see playing you.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love her so much. She's way funnier than I am, but I would love that. She's so cool.
Yeah, I was seeing that too, Jason, where I was like, oh, Dayna's story needs to be a movie. Where it's like this whole thing of being out, in the desert and having this connection point. Like, also the thing with the Native American experience, like all of this, step over Shirley MacLaine, in a respectful way, but like make room for this like other autobiography movie that would be so fascinating. And it's just almost like a trifecta of your story.
I see Amy Adams.
Oh, thank you. She's so amazing. I love her too. Those are great. Thank you guys.
Are you hearing us, Amy?
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah. So I actually have one more story. I don't know if you guys are interested.
Oh my God.
Another.
No, moving on.
Right. And this was pretty recent, actually. I was in Hawaii on Oahu, and I was on the west side of Oahu where white people don't go because they think it's going to be dangerous. It's where the native Hawaiians live. And I love it over there. It's the sacred ground. It's the most sacred land and area of Hawaiian spirituality. It's where the Makua Valley is where they believe that the Hawaiians were birthed out of. It's their birthing ritual legend. And so I was on the west side, and I got up very early in the morning. And this was just in 2019. This was in August of 2019. And I got up early in the morning to go see the dolphins at Makua Beach. Supposedly every morning in the morning, the dolphins, potted dolphins swim by. So I got a boogie board and I went out just by myself. And And I was on the boogie board for about an hour, and nothing was coming, but my God, the beauty. I was looking back, and it would be Makua Valley, right behind the land was Makua Valley, and then looking out at the water, and it's, and just a stunning place. And I was there for about an hour, and all of a sudden I looked up, and I see in a cloud, I see a heart. It was just like this perfect Valentine's heart. And I was like, oh, and as I was out there, I was having this experience of coming in and out of like, ego mind, thinking, worrying, into like, and then I'd look at the land, I'd look back at the valley, and it would just open up, and I'd be like, this is the pure loving awareness. This is the truth. And then I'd kind of come back, and the mind would start to think again. And then I was like, and then I would open back up, and it would start to worry, and everything would open back up. So I was having this really beautiful experience out there. And then I looked up, and I saw the heart, this giant heart in the sky. And I was like, I started laughing. I was like, that's so funny. And then all of a sudden, like these two little cotton balls come into the center of the humps, right? They appear, and it looks like a face. I'm like, that's like, that's like, it looks like it's looking at me, this funny face. And then all of a sudden it started to completely transform, and it became more and more and more clear, so that it was a face of a Hawaiian man. And it was like a completely, it was still, cloud colored, but it was completely alive, three-dimensional, real eyes, and this man was looking down at me. And his energy, I was just like, and I started just bawling my eyes out. And I was just like, he just looked down at me with this incredible compassion. But also there was a little bit of almost sadness in him. It was just, but he was so powerful, and his face was completely, totally fulfilled, except that one side of his jaw was gone, and that was all. And so, and then I just saw him, and then all of a sudden the clouds moved and transformed and dissipated into clouds. And I swam back. I never saw dolphins. I swam back to shore. I got in my car, and I went to this other area that has public bathrooms to change clothes. And there was a truck there, a pickup truck, and they had these big flags on them, and there were some Hawaiians hanging out. And I went up to the truck, and in another time, I probably wouldn't have approached the Hawaiian people who were hanging out, because the reputation is that they don't like haoles, white people, tourists being over there, and I didn't want to bother them. It's their place, and the tourists, like, you can imagine. And so, but I was just like, so open. My heart was just like blasted open, and I wanted to know something. I'm like, they're people. I'm going to go ask. And I wanted to know what the flags meant. They had these giant flags, and what it meant was they're trying to build a huge telescope, yes, on the top of their sacred mountain on the Big Island. And the flags are in protest of this happening. And so we were talking about it, and I said, what's your name? And she said, Hala. And it was her. There was a woman, middle-aged, with a bunch of teenagers. And I said, she said, what's your name? And I said, Howley. And which is the name for, it's like cracker, it's like, it's like their derogatory name for white people, tourists, colonialists, whatever. And so I just said, my name's Howley. And they cracked up laughing. They were like, oh my God, that's so funny. And then I just said, by the way, I just had this experience. We just started talking. I said, I just had this experience in the water that just blew my mind. And she's like, oh yeah, that's Brada Makua. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, he's in the cave right down the street. That's the Makua cave. That's Brada Makua. And I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. And she's like, yeah. And so I drove 2 minutes at the most back toward Makua and parked where she told me. And there's a cave right there. I walked into the cave and there's a huge natural carving in the cave of the face I saw in the cloud, about the same size. And with the missing jaw, right? That's the only thing that's not fully pictured in the carving is and so it was, and I was just like, whoa. And she said, yeah, that's our deity, God. That's God to us, and it's brother Makua. And so yeah, and there's whole legends about Makua and Pele and having, coming together and creating the Hawaiian people, and how Pele came over and came into the cave from the Big Island and met with her lover, the beloved, and they, it's the whole thing. So yeah, so I got to hang out with Brada Makua at Makua Beach for a minute. So it was so cool because it was such a confirmation, it was such a validation. I would have never, I was just like, what the hell? Did I just hallucinate or something? I don't know. But the fact that I just happened to go like, oh, I'm supposed to go talk to these Hawaiian people, and I never would have otherwise, never had done, and then boom, I was just like, oh yeah. And she did like nothing, like, oh yeah, that's so cool. Such a cool experience.
It is mind blowing.
Mhm.
I don't even know what to say.
That's how the creation works, right? When you're open to it, fantastical things, seemingly fantastical things can happen when you're open to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was cool too, because, it was very, very shamanic, to like, that line of energy. So that's why when I've started only in the past year with my shamanic stuff, my cool shaman stuff, because I am like, hey, these dudes keep coming to me, and they're like, hey, you're part of us. I have some hematite eggs here that I got in a really magical way. And so yeah, so I thought you guys would enjoy that story. It's
amazing.
Yeah.
We had Tanis Hellawell on the show, and one of the books she's written, I'll have to share it with you post show, but she wrote a book about connecting with the Hawaiian deities because she is able to connect with elementals. And I'll have to share that with you to see if that's of interest. But we've got 15 minutes left, and we should probably talk about the book.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So I know that we've all been reading it and gotten to certain degrees of it. We've had a couple of people. Claudia Edge has also been reading the book. One of our members, Carla, has also been reading the book. So we have people who are reading it, and I kind of just wanted to let people know, what it's about, because it's not about Pleiadians, it's not about Arcturians. You've taken Kaia and you've given her her own planet, and you've let the story unfold there. And Mobius, who's the main character. Oh, there's more than, I guess it's really an ensemble cast, really. Mobius is kind of the one I think is the touchstone character for a lot of us.
Yeah, he's the main character, yeah.
Yeah, you call him the main character.
Yeah, him and Diego are the primary.
Yeah, there's like a parallel thing going on with, so I wanted to ask, first let us hear what you want to say about that, because I do have a question, but I want you to tell us more. In terms of
the book. I mean, it's the guidance was write something that is going to be accessible to a mainstream audience. So if I'm writing about and trying to channel an alien race and all that, that's just it's just people are just not going to pick up on that in a mainstream way. And so not yet. It's getting more and more so, but so I didn't know what that was going to be, and I was at a Mayan exhibit one day, like about 20 years after my experience, and I was with my partner's uncle and aunt, and the uncle's from Arkansas, just like total small town, has the accent and everything, and I said, wow, I wonder how they made these amazing stone monoliths and all this incredible, and the pyramids and everything, these beautiful things we were looking at. And he said, oh, they had help from aliens. And I was just like, if this dude thinks that, then it's time. It's time for me to write this damn book, And and then all of a sudden I just got in just like downloading. It reminded me of when J.K. Rowling was on the train going back and forth to work, and all of a sudden Harry Potter just shows up to her. It was just like all of a sudden this thing of like, oh, this kid finds a relic and on this other planet, and he finds out that in the past, like from Kaia's world, from an awakened world, he's this kid, and because I wanted to reach young people, I wanted to, and his innocence too. I wanted him to be innocent, that innocent child kind of archetype, and he finds this relic, and then they tried to colonize, back when they weren't awake, tried to colonize the earth, and helped make the pyramids. And of course that's, this whole archetype of the aliens engaging with the people of the pyramids and everything. So it just started to come in, and then I got to, Kaia, of course, is going to be a character in it, but it's not like she's because I don't know if she's just transdimensional, or whatever. She's just like beyond our dimension and whatever. It means they came in a ship, so whatever their planet would look like, I'm like, whoa, I wish I could go there for sure. But I made it more so that it would be relatable, like a brother sister planet, sibling planet to Earth, so that we would be able to relate to it. And then when Julia came on board, it's like Mobius needs to have an arc, and needs to be relatable as well. So we made him, not completely awake. Right. So he has this relatability to humanity, and he has this arc he has to go on that we're all going on. Right. So, yeah. Yeah.
I want to hop in because it's like, there is this parallel where it's like, yes, the people from Akara have visited the planet, and that is where we get like this alien, like ancient alien, like that is this story's version of the ancient alien Contact.
Yeah, right.
And so it's parallel, it's running parallel, right? But it's got a different narrative going on. And they have the awakened Akarans who've gone through their 1,000 years of like, get your shit together and stop being a-holes and treat each other like brothers and sisters. So after 1,000 years of pulling their heads out, like they're able to tap into what they call the wisdom, where it's like, even if they have an idea, they're like, well, what's the wisdom say? And the wisdom kind of has the final say. It overrides whatever the practical mind would say. And they're all in alignment to that, which is just glorious. But I wanted to talk about Mobius and him being an anomaly and what that means in the story. What does it mean that Mobius is an anomaly, that he's not like the other Akarians?
So he is not completely ego-free. He has still some shadow, some ego, some material to some belief in separation to work through, and he's born with that. So he's an anomaly because he's not like everybody else. And he ends up feeling a bit isolated because of it. And he even thinks about what would it have been like to be part of the ravaging era when other people were more like me. At least I wouldn't have felt so alone. So he's going through this process. And of course, the people around him love him, accept him, don't buy into the story. He's completely fine. But he, in his ego, is like, I'm different. I'm not as good as, I'm doubting myself. And it really started to feel like too, because so many, like Linda was talking about before, having dyslexia, so many people were realizing coming out, it's like, oh, there's ADHD, there's all kinds of neurodiversity, there's all kinds of people on all kinds of spectrums. And it's like, to relate to people, because that's another thing we're all coming out of the closet with, is that we're all not normative, thinkers. And so, that's another thing, to relate to people from that level of like, oh, I'm different, but what do I bring that's actually really important to the table because of my difference? And that's what Mobius begins to find.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a question in the audience, and it kind of pulls us out of the book, but I want to make sure we answer it. We ask it before we close up. And Cecile asks, how does Dayna interact with Kaia her future self today?
Yeah, I mean, I feel Kaia as a presence, and sometimes she comes to me very strongly, and it's again still just more of her presence is with me, and I know she's kind of like a guardian angel. She's guiding and holding and all of that, but mainly it's just I feel her overarching presence. And then every once in a while she'll come to me and be like telling me, like kind of revealing to me that it's me. And then that's like, oh my, because she knows, she's like, I'm a little bit on the short bus with all this, it's like, she's like teaching me things in increments. And so, but yeah, that's been a revelation lately with that. So but yeah, she's there for sure.
Yeah. I feel like her arms are just like spread out, containing it all.
Yes.
Do we have any final questions, Linda, Jason, Angela? Any final on the book and the work that Miss Dayna is doing?
For the book, I would say it's such a great book because it's little nuggets of wisdom worked in throughout the book. Things such as how to connect with your intuition, trusting the wisdom that's afforded to you through accessing through your intuition, through your intuitive senses, and things like breatharianism.
Yes.
All different types of little pieces that are worked into the storyline if you're able to pick those up. So it's a great story. And my last point is I think it's so telling. The whole show has been so telling how you come into an awakening state, and some people think that if I do A, B, and C, I'm going to arrive at this enlightened, awakened state, and that'll be it. But realistically, it's a continuous effort at integrating what comes, right? Because as soon as you work through one level, you delve into the next layer and the next layer and the next, and it just keeps going. It keeps expanding into the next, to like a rabbit hole almost. So yeah, it's a continuous effort, a continuous work. And I think that's what was on display today, as far as our awareness as a group, and then delving into the aspects of all these little details and tidbits of Dayna's story. So it's been a great show, really.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you've read some of the book, and sounds like you're going to finish it. And it's my baby, and Julia and my baby, we worked on it like for 7 years. It was definitely a 7-year cycle for us, and to finally have it out there and have people reading it and picking up on the messages that we're trying to get across. And you can imagine like what from your perspective, Angela, like you're enjoying the teaching, but can you imagine some kid in like some 20-year-old at college and at the University of Oklahoma, where I'm from? It's like, and just being like, what is this? Or seeing it hopefully as a movie. But the book has to do well first. And so my pitch is like, please, you all read the book and share it with others, because this is how there have been really 2 breakthrough spiritual novels, The Celestine Prophecy and The Alchemist. And those were both very similar. The Celestine Prophecy was self-published, like Awake is, and it took, and he just sold it out of the back of his car. And people like you guys, people who just like love reading fiction that has spiritual story in it and teachings, spread the word and helped him spread the word. And so, it was the spiritual community. It was like, and then they passed it, and then it picked up. And that was another one that was hugely influential for me, in the early 90s. Like, oh, wow. It's like learning about energies and all of that was so powerful. And then The Alchemist it took 8 years It was dead in the water for 8 years, and Madonna talked about it on Oprah and said it was her favorite book. And it still took 2 years after that and Oprah started talking about it, and Bill Clinton was pictured with it and stuff. So but neither of them was like, I'm getting published, and then all of a sudden it's just this great guns kind of experience. So it's really, I'm just like calling in the tribe. Like, if you guys want to see more spiritual storytelling, really, there's content here that we can actually say, this will work. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. And then all of a sudden, all kinds of doors can open, which I think is so far past time that happened, that we have conscious storytelling in the world, in the mainstream media. It's so important at this time. It's a huge part. I mean, this is very clear guidance from Kaia and her people, is you guys, this is so important as part of the evolution of consciousness. You have to tell stories that are going to uplift you and have the visionary, like a Jan Van Zant called Awake, a visionary page turner. It has to have a vision, and we have to have this vision of where we're going, hold it and see that. And what we've been seeing is a very dark sides of humanity, the worst of humanity on our screens and in our books. So yeah. So thank you guys for reading it.
I want to leave one more thought with this, is that you guys all know me, that manifestation takes place when you combine the energetic frequency with action.
Yeah.
And so part of that is seeing it. The other part is being very practical. So if Amazon is the place where this is being sold the most, when you read it, go on and do a review,
Absolutely.
please, because it makes a difference. It really, really does.
It really does.
So make that effort if you want to see this grow in the world and make the shift that we all know it can help create. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Thank you. And it's so true, because, like, for instance, it's funny. I got to show you guys this. My computer is sitting on this box. You see this box?
Mm-hmm.
We got this box. This box is going to Jim Carrey. So he is an incredibly spiritual guy, and I don't know if you all know that, but Jim Carrey, the actor, he's very spiritual. And so we're trying to get in, we're going to put in the book in there, and we're getting a calligrapher to create a beautiful piece of paper with a quote that he said about getting a script written in gold, that's important for people to see. And if that's what he wants to work on. And so we're sending him the book with that and in gold. And, so when somebody like that gets the book, he goes onto Amazon and sees how many reviews there are. Right. So to see if he wants, it's like, oh, is this a real thing? Is this what I, before even cracking the book? That's how our world is often, maybe not for him, but you know what I mean? It's like so important to have that social proof. So yeah, those things matter. You're right. I can tell you're a business coach, Linda.
But it's also, it's combining those worlds of you're doing exactly what I talk to people about, of creating those opportunities, throwing those breadcrumbs out, because then you can follow that breadcrumb and gosh, there's another one right there for you. And then there's another one.
Right.
But you've got to take that initiative of throwing that breadcrumb forward to move you forward, so that future self, the other things that are there helping us, can continue throwing those breadcrumbs for you to go to the next step and the next step and the next step. And having that trust.
Can we talk?
Of course.
I want to talk to you offline, please.
Would love it.
Yeah.
Would love it.
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got another little idea that I'll share with you afterwards, Miss Dayna, and it's a little marketing idea.
Okay.
And it may or may not be the time, but I want to share that with you as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Kat. Kat is such a cool, I love your amazing ideas.
He's a cool cat, even.
He's a cool cat. That's right.
I do what I can with what I've been given. That's the best I can do.
Yep.
So I'm going to toss the mic to Miss Linda, and we will start our gratitude list.
Yes. we're so much gratitude going on. I encourage you, Dayna, to go back and look at the conversations in our live chat. If you're watching this later, continue the conversation, please. And then go over to our Facebook group and continue more. Share your experiences. Promote the book, please. And make sure that you like, share, subscribe so that other people see this with all of those fabulous algorithms. And again, thank you for the donations. Check out the links below because Dayna's information is there. The Netflix link is in the live chat. So we can put that in the chat below as well for going in and requesting that this be on Netflix.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll give you guys a gift before we go. Out on a Limb is free on YouTube right now.
Wait.
Yay.
So, and it's like 6 hours, 6 hours of amazing content.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Love
Enjoy.
that. Yes. Oh, let's see. I think that is it. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Angela. Again, you guys always add such a much richer level to our conversation.
Yes,
we
absolutely
come together, and again, the whole is the sum of the parts. What's the thing? Say it for me.
The sum of the parts is greater than
the whole.
The whole is greater than the
greater.
sum of the parts.
That's it.
Whatever.
The whole is
Thank you.
greater than the sum of the parts.
The whole is
Yes.
greater than the sum of the parts. And I always get that because of all of the people that come in as well and the energy they come in and bring in when we're watching. I get this fabulous swirl of everything coming in the group here, and you guys add so much. So thank you for doing that. And Kat, who do we have coming in?
Thanks for asking, Melinda. I'd love to tell you. So next week, we're going to have Kelly Rainbow Butterfly. Oh my gosh, she's been on before. We love her so much. She's the leader of the Sasquatch family reunion, which we were going to be talking about. That's coming up in June. And her man, Christian Shayna. They're both just warm, wonderful people. I got to meet them in person last year. And that will be next Sunday, May 22nd. So it's going to be a Sunday instead of a Saturday. So put that in your calendar at our usual time. But we're super excited to have them. And I've got us in the Brady Bunch view so that we can all say thank you and goodbye to our fabulous people who are watching us today. We're so grateful for our community. We love you. Thank you for being with us. This wouldn't exist without you. So thank you so much. We truly appreciate you. All right, everyone, be so very good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be kinder to others. And we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Dayna. It was amazing.
Yeah, wonderful.